Let's get real. Some of the wildest car chases in movie history never left the studio lot. That's right. Before CGI and drone cameras, the most heart-pounding road battles were powered by nothing but roaring engines, wild acting, and a little Hollywood trickery called rear projection. So, how did classic films convince us we were speeding through Paris or racing down the Pacific Coast Highway, all while parked in a warehouse? Buckle up. Which iconic car chase fooled you the most? Don't blink, you'll never see rear projection the same way again. North by Northwest, 1959. Picture this. Cary Grant, the original wrong man, sweating bullets as he careens through the night in a convertible, headlights slicing through darkness, cops in hot pursuit, and not an inch of real highway beneath his tires. Alfred Hitchcock didn't just invent suspense. He elevated the rear projection car chase to high art. When Roger Thornhill is framed for murder and forced into a frantic booze-fueled drive down twisty roads, you're glued to the edge of your seat, never once stopping to wonder if those blinking city lights are just film rolling behind a stationary car. Hitchcock knew the value of illusion. Every frame is composed to sell speed and danger, with frantic close-ups on Grant's face and just enough background blur to make your pulse race. Rear projection wasn't a crutch. It was a brushstroke in the master's hands. The director's favorite playgrounds were train cars and hotel lobbies, but here, he transformed a studio setup into pure cinematic adrenaline. Audiences bought every second. After all, who questions the master of suspense? What makes this scene legendary isn't just technical wizardry. It's the psychological intensity. Grant's desperation is real, even if the world rushing past is an elaborate trick. The result: a chase that feels bigger than any city street, all while never leaving the safety of a Hollywood soundstage. Today, CGI tries to wow us with spectacle, but Hitchcock's chase reminds you, sometimes the most thrilling ride happens entirely in your head. To Catch a Thief, 1955, glamour, sun-drenched danger, and a convertible with Grace Kelly at the wheel. What could possibly go wrong? In To Catch a Thief, Hitchcock swaps city grit for Riviera shimmer, and rear projection becomes the secret sauce that turns a leisurely drive into a heart-racing game of cat and mouse. When Kelly's heiress and Cary Grant's ex-cat burglar wind their way up those perilous, twisting roads above Monaco, the stakes are every bit as real as the sparkling Mediterranean in the background. Except, of course, they're not on the Côte d'Azur at all. Instead, they're riding a metal shell in a controlled studio, with miles of French scenery unspooling behind them. But does it matter? Not one bit. The combination of glamorous close-ups, sparkling dialogue, and that rear-projected coast is so effective you can almost feel the wind in your hair and the danger around every corner. Hitchcock understood that suspense isn't just about what's real, it's about what you feel. And when Kelly takes a curve a little too fast, even the audience leans. This sequence doesn't just sell speed, it sells fantasy. Hollywood never looked more impossibly alluring, and rear projection is the magician's cape, making it all possible. It's no wonder this chase remains one of cinema's most seductive set pieces. It's proof that you don't need rubber on the road to get a viewer's heart pounding, just a little movie magic and two of the most beautiful people ever caught on film. It's a mad, 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 mad world, 1963. Let's talk chaos. Before Fast and Furious made mayhem a brand, it's a mad, 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 mad world, staged the most hilariously wild car chases ever, without leaving the rear projection booth. Stanley Kramer's epic comedy is a masterclass in turning traffic into pure spectacle. You've got a cast of comedy legends, Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Ethel Merman, crammed into a parade of cars, all desperate to beat each other to buried loot. Now, imagine the logistics. Dozens of vehicles, multiple storylines, slapstick stunts. How do you keep that controlled and safe in the era before insurance agents lost their minds? Rear projection to the rescue. The cars never left the studio, but the laughs and adrenaline sure did. The backgrounds whiz by, the actors mug for the camera, and the audience is in on the joke. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, and it's impossible not to love. But here's the trick. The film doesn't hide its technique. It leans into the artifice, letting the absurdity of the chase become part of the fun. rear projection becomes a punchline and a storytelling device, amping up the chaos without risking the stars' necks. The result? A chase sequence so legendary it turned what could have been a logistical nightmare into a comedy classic. The only thing crazier than the plot is how well this car chase works, even when you can spot the seams. Sabrina, 1954. Not every car chase has to be about breakneck speed. Sometimes the most memorable journeys are slow, romantic, and shot through with longing. Sabrina might be remembered for Audrey Hepburn's dazzling transformation, but those moonlit drives with Humphrey Bogart are pure Hollywood magic and pure rear projection artistry. The rolling lawns and winding roads of Long Island glide by, more dream than reality, as love triangles and class divisions swirl inside the limousine. Director Billy Wilder uses the car as a confessional. Characters trade secrets and glances, cocooned from the outside world, even as that world is faked on a looping screen behind them. The illusion isn't about fooling the eye as much as seducing the heart. Hepburn's luminous profile framed against a twilight backdrop is enough to make any viewer swoon. Rear projection in Sabrina is about mood, not momentum. It elevates the ordinary, car rides to tennis matches, nighttime escapes, into something almost fairy tale. For all the realism modern filmmakers chase, they rarely touch the emotional magic that comes from these carefully crafted, utterly artificial moments. When Bogart and Hepburn drive off together, it's not just the scenery that's rear projected, it's every romantic hope the movie's ever sold us. And honestly, that's a ride worth taking. Charade, 1963. Who says murder and romance can't share the same back seat? In Charade, the Parisian streets are alive with intrigue, and the art of rear projection is alive and well too. Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant dodge danger, crack wise, and unravel a mystery, all while zipping around the city of lights that's just out of reach. With shadowy boulevards and dizzying traffic whizzing past, the car scenes aren't just transitions, they're suspense generators. Director Stanley Donen crafts these moments to play with your nerves. The city flashes by, and every jostle of the car feels loaded with uncertainty. Is the next stop a clue, a trap, or a romantic detour? Rear projection keeps the actors front and center, their faces flickering with fear, wit, or attraction. Never mind that the Arc de Triomphe is just a painted blur in the background. But here's the best part. Charade embraces its own artifice. The blend of slick dialogue and retro movie trickery reminds you that sometimes the best thrillers are the ones that feel a little unreal. Rear projection here isn't a shortcut. It's part of the film's charm, wrapping the viewer in nostalgia, suspense, and more than a little Parisian style. The Big Sleep, 1946. Forget car chases that just show off horsepower. The Big Sleep turns a drive through LA into a plunge into noir paranoia, using rear projection to wrap you in fog, shadow, and intrigue. Humphrey Bogart's Philip Marlowe isn't running from the cops. He's chasing answers through a city that never really reveals itself. Every time Bogart slips behind the wheel, the rear projected streets become a maze, and the audience gets lost right along with him. Director Howard Hawks wasn't about flashy stunts. He was about mood, and rear projection lets him paint Los Angeles as a city full of secrets. Neon signs, slick asphalt, and the eternal night all become part of the psychological trap Marlowe can't quite escape. The city moves, but somehow he stays stuck, going nowhere fast, chasing ghosts. The result is a car chase that's less about speed and more about suspense. The danger isn't what's coming at you, it's what's lurking in the dark just off-screen. For film noir, that's not just smart, it's essential. Hawks turned the limitations of rear projection into an atmospheric weapon, making you feel like every corner hides a double cross. In The Big Sleep, the chase is always on, even if it's only in your mind. Bullitt, 1968. Let's clear something up. Bullitt is famous for putting real rubber to real asphalt, Steve McQueen's Mustang roaring over San Francisco hills, bouncing so hard your teeth rattle. But here's the twist. Even in the most celebrated car chase of all time, rear projection still slips in, proving its staying power in the era of on-location daredevils. Whenever McQueen takes a breather or exchanges tense dialogue mid-chase, the filmmakers duck back into the studio using rear projection to keep the illusion going, and you, the viewer, never miss a beat. Director Peter Yates understood that adrenaline isn't all about breakneck speed, it's about rhythm. Those quieter in-car moments, with city lights flickering behind McQueen as he scans his mirrors for the hitmen on his tail, use rear projection as a bridge, connecting the wild stunts outside to the psychological tension inside. The audience gets both sweaty-palmed action and white-knuckle suspense. Cut together so seamlessly, most viewers never realize when the real chase ends and the magic begins. It's no accident that Bullitt inspired decades of copycats. The film's willingness to mix raw location footage with old-school rear projection makes the action feel relentless, unbroken, and cinematic in a way CGI can only dream of. You get all the thrills, none of the technical whiplash. So next time someone claims rear projection is just a relic, point them to Bullitt, a movie where tradition and innovation collide at 90 miles per hour. And if you still think you can spot the trick shots, watch again. The real magic? You're too hooked to care. Vertigo, 1958. Is it a chase if you're being chased by your own nightmares? In Hitchcock's Vertigo, the answer is yes. And rear projection turns San Francisco's streets into a surreal labyrinth of obsession and fear. When Jimmy Stewart's detective, racked by acrophobia and doubt, follows Kim Novak's enigmatic Madeline through the city, every car ride becomes a fever dream. The backgrounds swirl, the cityscape blurs, and the tension cranks up to 11, not with horsepower, but with pure psychological torque. Hitchcock was a maestro at making limitations work for him. Realistically, filming a car trailing another across those vertiginous hills would have cost a fortune. So he staged many of the crucial driving scenes in studio, with city lights and iconic landmarks gliding past on rear projection screens. The effect? You're never sure if what you're seeing is real or imagined, which is exactly how Scotty, Stewart's character, feels. The line between reality and illusion gets as slippery as a wet San Francisco street. What makes these sequences pop isn't the fake speed, but the way Hitchcock uses the environment to trap the viewer in Scotty's unraveling mind. Every frame is haunted, every shadow is suspect, and every curve in the road could be a trap. Rear projection becomes part of the storytelling, not just a technical trick, a way to disorient, to unsettle, and to leave the audience as dizzy as the protagonist. Vertigo proves that sometimes the most dangerous chases are the ones that never leave the studio, and the ones you can't escape, even after the credits roll. Goldfinger, 1964. James Bond, an Aston Martin, Swiss mountain roads, and enough gadgets to fill a villain's lair. What could possibly be more iconic? In Goldfinger, rear projection becomes 07's secret weapon, letting the world's coolest spy race through hairpin turns, dodge henchmen, and flirt with danger, all from the safety of Pinewood Studios. Sean Connery might have looked like he was one bad swerve away from disaster, but the only real threat was running out of film. Director Guy Hamilton and the Bond crew didn't just settle for static backgrounds. They choreographed dazzling car chases where Connery's sly grins and sharp one-liners are perfectly timed to the flicker of faux alpine scenery. The sequence where Bond's Aston Martin DB5 is pursued down a twisting mountain pass is all about tension, screeching tires, oncoming headlights, and close calls with cliffs. Yet most of the action is projected magic, expertly blended with cutaways to real road stunts and miniature work. Rear projection here is as much a Bond trademark as the shaken martini. It lets the filmmakers put viewers right in the passenger seat, feeling every curve and crash, without ever risking their lead actor or that priceless car. And while modern audiences may snicker at the painted backdrops, they're also hooked, swept up in the glamour and danger that only Bond can deliver. Goldfinger shows that when you mix practical effects with pure movie illusion, you don't just chase the bad guys, you chase immortality. And isn't that what Bond's always done best? Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. Before there was Fast and Furious, there was a different kind of street racing, one that left a permanent scar on American pop culture. Rebel Without a Cause doesn't just give us James Dean brooding behind the wheel. It delivers one of the most nerve-wracking, iconic car sequences ever filmed, thanks in no small part to rear projection. The infamous Chicky Run, two cars hurtling toward a cliff, teenage egos and lives on the line, takes the anxieties of 1950s youth and blows them up on a screen as big as your nightmares. What's wild is how much of that terror was manufactured in the safety of a soundstage. Rear projection allowed Nicholas Ray to keep his stars, Dean, Natalie Wood, and Sal Mineo, front and center, their faces lit by ghostly dashboard glow, while the world behind them raced and blurred. The effect is both intimate and surreal. You see every bead of sweat, every flicker of fear, every moment of bravado. The outside world becomes an emotional backdrop, amplifying the claustrophobia and fatalism that define the scene. Here, rear projection isn't about fooling you, it's about drawing you inside the characters' heads. As the cars approach the cliff, the tension is all in the performances and the stuttering, unreal movement of the world behind them. When the dust settles and tragedy strikes, you realize you've been holding your breath, not because you believed the illusion, but because you bought into the danger. Rebel Without a Cause made rear projection an emotional weapon, and that's a trick few have pulled off since. Double Indemnity, 1944. If noir is about shadowy motives and fateful decisions, then Double Indemnity is the blueprint, and its car scenes set the gold standard for rear projection mood. Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray plot murder in a world where every nighttime drive is thick with suspicion, cigarette smoke, and the sense that doom is riding shotgun. Director Billy Wilder didn't need a roaring engine to make you sweat. He just needed a darkened studio, a few flickering streetlights, and a backdrop that suggested Los Angeles was closing in, one slow block at a time. Rear projection here is like a silent accomplice. The city rolls by, hypnotic and distant, while inside the car, the conspirators whisper, plan, and panic. There's an eerie stillness to these scenes, the kind you get when you're alone on the road and every turn feels like it might be your last. The backgrounds don't have to look real, they have to feel right, capturing the dreamy dread that makes noir so irresistible. Wilder's use of rear projection is less about spectacle and more about suffocation. The car becomes a moving prison, and the illusion serves to increase the tension. Every time the characters drive deeper into their own mess, you can feel the walls closing in, even if the only thing actually moving is the film behind them. Double Indemnity proved that a car chase doesn't have to be fast to be deadly, and sometimes the scariest roads are the ones that never leave the lot. The Italian Job, 1969. What's more fun than a getaway? 3 Mini Coopers, a gold heist, and the wildest, most precision-engineered chase ever to squeeze through a city's arteries. The Italian Job is a love letter to car chases and rear projection alike. The film is legendary for its real stunts, minis vaulting over staircases and screaming through arcades, but the rear projection moments stitch the impossible together, giving you those cool interiors where Michael Caine's crew laughs, sweats, and shouts directions as Turin blurs by outside. The genius is in the mix. Director Peter Collinson knew when to put his stunt drivers on the street and when to let movie magic handle the rest. Rear projection kept the dialogue flowing, let the audience ride shotgun, and preserved the film's tongue-in-cheek style without missing a single gear shift. Those seamless transitions between live action and studio trickery are the secret fuel that keeps the entire caper running smooth. And honestly, would The Italian Job be the same without its impossible blend of high-stakes action and cheeky British charm? The film turns the car chase into a rolling party, and rear projection is what lets you feel like you're right in the middle of it, no driver's license required. In the end, it's not about what's real or fake. It's about how hard you're grinning by the time the credits roll. Rear projection or not, you'll never look at a Mini Cooper or a traffic jam the same way again. So, next time you spot a car chase that looks a little too perfect, remember, movie magic was burning rubber long before CGI even had a learner's permit. Rear projection didn't just save budgets. It cranked up suspense, created legends, and made you believe you were flying down the highway from the safety of your seat. Which classic trickery fooled you best, and which chase gets your pulse racing? Drop your favorites below, hit subscribe, and let's keep chasing that next big cinematic thrill, no rearview mirrors needed.